Welcome to Politically Speaking. We're live in studio on March 18th. We've got a special show tonight. We're going to be covering the COVID-19 and some of its impacts here in Peterborough. We have a series of guests and some updates from local authorities on what's been happening in and around Peterborough. And as you know, this is a Peterborough-Lindsay, and as you know, this is changing with every moment on what's been happening, and lots of news today. And Politically Speaking is pleased to be with you on your TV to get some thoughts and share some information. So first off in the studio, I'm really delighted to welcome our MPP, Dave Smith. You'll notice we are distanced. We are at least 2 meters away. And you can hear me okay over there?
I can hear you. I had to put my glasses on to see you, though.
All right. Well, you know, Dave, so I'm really glad you could find some time. You know, everybody who's an elected official is very busy at this time, whether you're in our region or around the globe. Today was a very busy day on the airwaves. Other media outlets had Prime Minister Trudeau started off the day announcing a funding package to help people that might be out of work for a while, to help businesses. The Premier Ford made an announcement as well yesterday declaring a emergency situation here in Ontario.
Yes.
And he said it was go for 2 weeks till the end of the month. And is that still something we are looking at, that 2-week period? Will we have a good eye on where things are going?
Well, one of the reasons behind it, and I've had a lot of questions on it, why is it only 2 weeks? The way the legislation is written, we have 2 weeks for it. If we need to extend it beyond that, then it's something that we'll have to go back to the legislature. And it's put in place so that you don't give too many powers to a governing party at any given time. That 2-week period allows us to do the things that we need to do. If we need to make some adjustments to it again, then we go back to the opposition. We ask, will you give us unanimous consent? Let's make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing for the province.
So are you seeing, and I guess we are seeing on the surface, partisanship has gone by the wayside. The Premier complimented the Prime Minister. We don't see that too often. Is everybody really pulling together to do what's best for citizens of our region in Ontario these days?
Yeah, I think that what's happening is that everyone recognizes that we're in a crisis situation. And yes, we want to be partisan at certain times, but this is one of those cases where you need to be looking at what's in the best interest of the people. And working together, we're going to be able to accomplish a lot more. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for us to be butting heads. Let's sit down, talk about the things that we need to do, and move forward in a constructive way. Part of the reason that we haven't made some of our announcements is because we were waiting for the feds to do some of the things that they needed to do. And you can't steal their thunder. You can't look at it from how do we gain that political advantage. You have to look at what's in the best interest of people.
So Dave, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the questions I had. The federal government has announced what they want to do, and throughout the day different premiers have come to the table and said what they're doing, whatever their situations may be, from coast to coast to coast. What will the province do to sort of piggyback on what the feds are doing? What's within the capacity of the provincial government to support this issue?
So one of the things that we had announced was the $340 million on the healthcare side of it. We have that jurisdiction. The federal government has jurisdiction over a lot of the employment laws. They've come forward, the feds have come forward and made some changes to, or they will be making changes to the employment insurance side of it and giving support to families that way. What we have done is piggybacked on that, knowing what they're going to be spending for individual families to help people out that way, and then we can augment it in different areas. One of them in particular is we're giving $25 million for respite for different families. That's something that we could have announced yesterday, but it made more sense to wait until the federal government made their announcement so that others weren't coming forward saying, hey, what about us? Why aren't you doing something for this group as well? In terms of other health care, it's $100 million that's being invested in hospitals directly. $50 million specifically set aside just for testing on COVID-19. $50 million towards long-term care so that they have the appropriate levels of cleaning that'll be going on, disinfecting, so that they have the extra supports that they need in the long-term care facilities. Another $25 million in retirement care. Same concept. It's not at the same level, but these are all things that Ontario is stepping forward in our jurisdictional areas and making sure that the supports are there for the different groups who need it.
Dave, we just got a couple more questions for you tonight. How is your office on Water Street? How is it serving the public? Have you got any special protocols in place, or what kind of services can people get from you?
We do. We're asking people who can call in or send us an email to do that, but the office is still being staffed. All of my staff members unanimously decided that they wanted to come in to help. We're in a little bit different situation than what Miriam's office is set up as. We have a breezeway with a separate door, so when you come in the first area, you're in that breezeway, and then a second door to get into the main office. We're not letting people into the main office area. They stay in the breezeway. We have a teller window that's set up, and we can help you through that. And then when someone leaves that area, we go back into the area and we disinfect it to make sure that no one is going to be transmitting the disease, but we want to make sure that we're helping as many people as possible. Not everyone has a phone. Not everyone has access to the internet, and we're there to help everyone, so we need to stay open that way.
Great, David, thank you. And the last question I have is, the reason you're able to join us tonight at the last minute is because you've learned you don't have to go to Queen's Park. Just briefly tell us how this vote will take place on approving some of these laws, I guess, that are going to support people.
So we've made an agreement with the opposition parties. There will be 24 members who are coming in to the House, 12 from our party, 8 from the NDP, 1 the Green member, Mike Schreiner, and 2 from the Liberals, and then the Speaker of the House to give us 24. It is something that has been negotiated with all of the parties. There will be unanimous consent, or we expect there will be unanimous consent to pass what we need to help everybody. And it really demonstrates that the partisan lines are broken down, and all of us are looking at what's in the best interest of the people of Ontario and how do we make sure that we can get through this in the best shape possible.
Well, Dave, I want to thank you for coming in. I know you've got a busy schedule, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and some information with us. We'll be sure to have you back on before our season ends this year, and I wish you all the best. And people know where to get a hold of Dave Smith, MPP. Look him up on Google, or he told you how to see him on Water Street. Dave, thanks so much, and I wish you all the best as we go through the next few days.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it.
We want to now move to a briefing that was held today with the Peterborough Public Health. Dr. Rosanna Salvateri had a briefing. Our producer, Mary, was on the job and got us a clip. Have a moment to have a look at this, and we'll be right back.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I will start with that situational update. Here in Peterborough, we have an additional confirmed case, so we're now up to 2 confirmed cases. The second case is a close contact of our first. This person was tested here at Peterborough Public Health, and all the necessary precautions were taken. The person was directed to self-isolate at home, and we will be following up with that individual this morning to identify whether there are any additional close contacts that will be tested. And if so, that'll be done here as soon as possible. So we've had no deaths from COVID yet in Peterborough. We have no resolved cases that we're aware of yet. And as far as the public health measures, I believe I can say with confidence that the social distancing is now being implemented. In fact, we had very strong compliance yesterday with the closure of Peterborough bars and the changes to the restaurants. We had full compliance yesterday. We did not have to issue any Section 13 orders to close establishments. And so I just want to send a note of thanks out to all of the operators in Peterborough for being such great partners. As far as a specific theme today, I think we have a lot of people who are worried and anxious and are seeking testing. And I think we really need to ensure that people use the self-assessment tool that's on our website if they can. I know not everyone has internet access, but that tool should help them work through whether or not they need testing. In addition, people that have an exposure history, so if they've traveled within the last 14 days outside of Canada, or they have a contact with a case or a possible case, and mild symptoms, they should be calling us. So we are not testing anyone without symptoms. The test will not work on people without symptoms. So this is not a test that you can use like a blood test for immunity where you look for antibodies or some other markers. This is a test that identifies the virus. So if you do not have symptoms, we cannot test you. It would be a waste of a test. And those tests are so precious right now. We really need to be very, very careful as to who gets tested. So we are prioritizing people who are calling to us, who have mild symptoms and have an exposure history. We're helping people figure out whether or not they really do have an exposure history. And if we believe they need testing, we will test them. In fact, we have people coming in by appointment only to be tested here at Peterborough Public Health. In addition, we all now are very grateful that the hospital has its assessment center operational. They are taking referrals for testing from us. So if we have someone who calls us who has more significant symptoms or risks, and we really feel that that person needs an assessment as well as a test, we will refer that person to the hospital assessment center. And so the hospital is taking referrals from us. They're also taking referrals from family doctors. So again, if people have a family doctor or a nurse practitioner, they should be able to get in touch with them and be at least triaged through their primary care provider. I know in addition that the Peterborough Family Health Team virtual care clinic is providing access for people who do not have family physicians. So we are working very hard on ensuring people have somewhere to call. And as we get more resources online and available, we will be announcing those to the public so that people can get the care they need. I think I've addressed everything that I had to say, except just for a couple of more things I want to add. Because of the high volumes of people being tested in Ontario, our turnaround time for test results is now up to 4 days. So that means that people who are tested do need to remain in self-isolation until they are advised by a public health nurse or potentially by the person, the physician who ordered the test, that they are either positive or negative. We are still advising people that the incubation period for COVID is 14 days. So if they have been exposed, if they're a return traveler, they need to self-isolate for a minimum period of 14 days. And that's regardless of whether or not they've been tested. That's, I think, something that I would really appreciate the media's help in for everyone to understand, that the incubation period is 14 days, and that's how we have arrived at that as a minimum period of isolation for anyone following an exposure. And if they're well at the end of 14 days, then it's business as usual. But if not, by then hopefully they've been given some advice by their healthcare provider or by us. So I am going to turn this back over to Brittany for additional comments.
Okay.
Well, we want to thank Dr. Salvatierra and her staff for the great work they're doing, and the reason we don't have them on the show tonight is they're busy with conference calls and helping you and all your neighbors get through this and doing a great job for our community. We don't want to forget about our viewers in Lindsay, and I know you're out there. Mayor Andy Letham had some comments yesterday, so just watch this clip from a former guest on this show, Mayor Andy Letham of City of Kawarthas Lakes.
So as of tonight, we're going to be closing all municipal city-owned buildings within the City of Kawarthas Lakes. They'll be closed to the public. Our staff will obviously still be on board to answer phone calls and deal with issues. We're closing all landfill sites to the public as well to protect our staff. They will still be open to contractors. This is a moving, fluid, ongoing situation, as we've talked about before, and we will certainly continue to do our best to meet the needs of residents and deliver our essential services. Nothing that we're doing will impact any of our essential services as a city. We will continue to operate in those. We'll curbside pickup for waste will still be picked up, our roads will still be maintained and looked after, and our water supply system will obviously be maintained very safely moving forward. So that's an update for today, and we'll keep you posted as we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Letham. And we're going to go from Mayor Letham in Kawartha Lakes to Peterborough's mayor. And I just got word Mayor Diane Therrien is joining us on the telephone line, and she is another person who's been quite busy working on this file, as we call it. Diane is going to be on the line. I guess you get to look at me for a while here. But the City of Peterborough has implemented some policies in place, and again, these are things that are changing on the go, and we're going to get an update right now because I believe Mayor Diane Therrien is with us.
I am. Good evening.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship, for joining us, and I know it's been a busy time for you. One of the questions we wanted to ask, though, with this crisis being managed locally, is what kind of team, what kind of effort, what's the day look like for you and your members of your council and support team?
Yeah, that's a great question, and every day looks different. Our emergency management team has been meeting or having teleconferences pretty much every morning, and then regrouping in smaller, for smaller meetings as needed. So last Friday, when we came together and made the decision to close our municipal facilities, there was a group of about 40 of us in the room for that. And, again, things are changing day by day. So 2 weeks ago, we wouldn't have thought we would be in this situation, but we are. And I think it was, I was very adamant that we needed to close that because, again, we need to be proactive. I would much rather be overly cautious than the opposite. Yeah, and then again, things are changing day by day. So today we made the decision, or yesterday, to close City Hall to the public, and we're working with our employees as well. There's, to have a safe workplace. So there's a lot of employees that might, have compromised autoimmune systems, that sort of thing. And so how can we try to accommodate some work from home?
Diane, how does the City Council continue to function in this kind of, I guess it's a shutdown, but people, stores are open, businesses is as usual with proper social distancing. How does the business of the city bylaws get passed? How is that going to happen over the next few weeks?
Yeah, and so it's interesting because we have a council meeting scheduled for this coming Monday, which is actually good timing because it's given us a bit of a break between to figure out how we're going to deal with this. So the Provincial Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing had a teleconference yesterday. We're governed by the Municipal Act and we're creatures of the province. So previously, we were not permitted to advance council business, city business via teleconferencing. It had to all be in person. So Minister Clark said that they're working to pass a bill this week to change that. So we can actually make decisions even if we don't have a quorum in the physical room. So that's a good thing. And we're just figuring out what that's going to look like for our Monday meeting, which is going to be canceled. And because again, things are changing on the fly.
Right. Now,
but there are some time-sensitive issues, and we need to still be moving the business forward, but also prioritizing everybody's health and well-being.
Well, exactly. And there's a couple of things that were announced today. The city is trying to make life a little easier for our citizens. Free transit and no parking tickets. Is this accurate?
Well, okay. So the no parking tickets, we are trying to help out. Our downtown is getting hit really hard by this. It's had a difficult year. And so we're being lenient around, paying and having a, pay and display. If you park in front of a fire hydrant, if you park in an accessible space, you're still going to get a ticket.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so the downtown patrols have sort of been redeployed elsewhere for now, but we're still asking people that use common sense and don't park in front of a fire hydrant because you will get a ticket for that, yeah.
Okay, and as far as the transit buses, I understand there's some protocols about using rear doors and different things people need to do to make sure they don't potentially spread this virus. Is that something you can give us a quick update on?
Yeah, so our transit division has been on top of this since the beginning. And again, it's an essential service. A lot of people rely on it, but you often have a lot of people in a small space quite close together. So We recognize that some people just need to use transit, so it is still running. We have put a bit of a buffer around the driver, and as well as, seats are kind of marked off so that people aren't sitting right beside each other. So things like that, they're getting extra cleaning, disinfectant, all that kind of stuff. We are taking it very seriously.
All right. Now, the other thing, Peterborough has transitioned over the years, it's downtown in particular, to more of an entertainment, hospitality, restaurants with, smaller shops, and, many of them are doing very well. And is there anything the city can do to piggyback on what the provincial and federal government is doing? And we do have Terry Gile from the DBIA coming on in our second half, but from your perspective, is there anything the city proper can do to help ensure these businesses are maintained?
Yeah, absolutely. That's also a priority. Again, it's been a rough couple months, and so we're looking at ways that we can help locally. It's, we don't have the same money or resources as the provincial or federal government, so I'm hoping that the stimulus packages that have been talked about are directed towards small businesses and not, say, bailing out airlines. We have had preliminary talks, and I'm not sure where this will go, but around, can we, if people are late on their property taxes, can we, not penalize them, that kind of stuff. But I know Terry and the group that he's working with have been sending some ideas, and certainly we're happy to listen to those and do whatever we can to help keep our downtown going after this crisis.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is there's a lot of transition there. We've got some building projects going on. We've got some older buildings coming down, new ones going up, some plans to rehab some of those buildings, and those efforts could be impacted somewhat as well, because it did seem like there's a bit of a renewal for a lot of buildings in the downtown in the last little while. So is that something the city will be monitoring?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of development happening, and so, again, municipalities across the country are trying to figure out how we deal with this, crisis, but not having everything come to a standstill. So it is a learning process. It's an ongoing, day by day, hour by hour, evolution of learning and figuring out how we can adapt to this reality. But certainly, again, my priority is the health and safety of our folks. And then, but making sure that our economy can continue on is also, extremely important.
Mayor Terry, and we do appreciate you taking the time. Before I let you go, I just wanted to ask your thoughts and maybe some direction to the constituents here. What is the most important thing that you think our residents can do during this time to keep safe?
Yeah, great question. And again, we are encouraging people to practice social distancing. So just kind of staying home if you're able, avoiding big groups. I mean, a lot of it also comes down to being neighborly. We hear about a lot of, elderly folks that are, more vulnerable and don't necessarily want to go to the store. If you know that that's your neighbor, maybe offer to do a grocery delivery for them. Peterborough always comes together in times of crisis, and we're already seeing that happen now, and it will continue to do that. There's been a lot of donations. When restaurants were closing, they donated a lot of stuff to the food bank, which was essential because they've been hit really hard. So, I mean, there's a lot, and circumstances vary person to person, but basically, as an individual, using common sense around hygiene, washing your hands, staying home if you don't feel well, and then also the community piece about seeing how you can help out your neighbors.
Great, Diane. Well, thank you so much. I'm really glad you mentioned the donations to the food bank. We're talking about thousands of liters and hundreds of pounds of food going to the Kawarthas food share from those restaurants. And we should remember when they do open up again, they need our business. But I want to thank you for taking some time from your busy schedule. I'm sure we'll have you back on Politically Speaking again as things progress, and hopefully for the better in the near future. But thanks for all you're doing, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Diane Therrien, I want to thank her for taking time to speak with us. And we are going to take a break, but before we do, I just want to mention we have some community leaders coming in to talk in the studio. We're all going to be properly distanced. When we come back, I mentioned Terry Gile from the Downtown Business Improvement Area, Stu Harrison from the Peterborough District Chamber of Commerce, and Rhonda Keenan from Peterborough-Kawarthas Economic Development are all going to share their insights into what's happening with their membership in their community, and share that with you. And we'll be back right after these messages. Great, thanks for staying with us. We've got a great second half of the show. I've got 3 guests in studio. As I mentioned, 3 community leaders involved with businesses in and around the Peterborough area, and we're going to talk a bit about their perspectives on that. I'm going to start off with Stuart Harrison, and I'm going to get each one of these individuals to give a very brief update on what their organization does. And the reason I'm doing that is because I used to work for Rhonda Keenan's organization before she joined years ago, and people still say to me, weren't you with the DBIA? Weren't you with the Chamber? So not everybody knows what all these diverse groups do, and a lot of the things they do are the same. So Stu, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Jay, and thanks for having us here. Our role in this situation in particular is to disseminate information, and in many ways that's what the Chamber of Commerce is all about. We're essentially an advocacy group. We represent the business community, some 900 specific members, but I would say the business community at large, and we're the voice of that business community when it comes to municipal, provincial, and the federal government. And in this situation, we're talking to all 3 of them on a daily basis.
Okay. Now, Rhonda Keenan is the head of the Economic Development Corporation. Just give us a little rundown on your organization.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, for having me here today. So we are Great Peterborough and the Kawarthas Economic Development. We are the lead regional economic development agency. We're funded by the city and the county to perform those economic development duties for the municipality. We serve a number of businesses. There's thousands that operate within the city and the county across a variety of sectors. And really what we do is we try to position this region to be as competitive as it possibly can be for businesses. So in this organization, we try to understand what's keeping businesses up at night, and then we work with other agencies such as the Chamber of Commerce to help elevate that concern that business has up to better channels.
All right. And last but not least, so we were reminiscing about a previous appearance on our show, and it's been a few years, Terry Guile, but tell us a bit about the DBIA and your mandate and members.
So the downtown business improvement area, we represent over 400 businesses in the downtown. Just over 100 of those are places to eat, and so we are the hub for entertainment and fun and a lot of government facilities. So the heart of the community is in fact in the downtown. And we're also significantly 32% of the commercial tax base for the city of Peterborough. So the health of downtown is essential for the running of the entire city.
Yeah. Thank you, Terry. Stu, I want to go back to you and talk a bit about, we're here to talk about the COVID-19, and it's a global crisis we're dealing with. Peterborough has had 2 identified cases. We fortunately haven't had any associated deaths yet. But the communities we're talking with here have always worked together, but not always, but in recent years have worked together, not in silos. And you have a group called Team Peterborough. So tell us a bit about that and how having that organization collective helps in a situation like this.
Well, we certainly meet on a regular basis. We know each other very well. The Team PTBO moniker has just sort of become public. It's not exactly, we don't have uniforms or patches or anything like that. It's just, we just meet together because we're essentially in the same business, and that is, the economic health of the community. In this particular situation, I think it's become extremely important. So we're actually meeting every day as opposed to every couple of months. So that's the Team PTBO explanation. But I will quickly say that it essentially involves everyone. It's a lot of different organizations. It's all of our elected leaders. It's all of our citizens. It's our business community. It's the employees. Team PTBO is Peterborough City and County, so I just want to make sure that that's fully understood by everybody.
No, that's an important point. You are Peterborough and District. Rhonda is the Peterborough and Kawarthas region. And Rhonda, just recently your organizations combined to host a summit, which you do on a regular basis, not always together, but this time you did host a summit, just as this whole issue was coming about. And it was the Future Ready Business Summit 2020, and there was a seminar there called What Happens If? And the Chamber on their website has talked about, here, maybe you weren't exactly talking about this, you were talking about changes coming unexpectedly. So tell us a bit about that and how organizations like yours and your partners here can take advantage of providing professional development and intelligence to the community.
Well, that's something that we have always committed to, and Stu and I both realized earlier in the day that earlier in the year that we often are doing separate events and bringing business leaders in together. And we said, why don't we do a bigger and better one, join forces, and then we can use both of our memberships to get a better response. We'll get some better speakers. I think when we were talking about this business summit, we didn't anticipate that we would be in the position that we were in. Even the day that we actually hosted the event, that was sort of the first inkling that, large gatherings maybe are not the best place to be going after that time. So I think this is just a testament on how we need to be responsive and reactive, and kudos to our business community who are doing that right now very, very well. We don't know what the morning is going to bring to the afternoon, the changes, and I think that was part of the spirit of the whole summit was how do we get prepared, how do we get ready, and we don't know what curveballs are coming next, but we want individuals to be as prepared as possible. We want our businesses to be able to respond and adapt, and we were trying to give them the tools to get there. So I think on that, there were a number of great speakers that were giving tidbits, and their presentations and their info is on the Chamber's website. So I would direct people to the Peterborough Chamber website for a lot of information on that
Great,
right now.
and that also includes some Ontario Chamber of Commerce words of wisdom as well, I believe. Terry, I want to talk to you about the downtown. Now, I go back 16 years ago. Were you on City Council then?
Yeah.
The flood of 04?
That was, Council 101 lesson.
Yeah,
how
well,
to deal
the
with
reason I bring
crisis.
that up is because many businesses that had to close when we had the big flood downtown, there was a large number that didn't reopen. They didn't survive it for various reasons. This can have a similar impact. We don't know when it's going to end. We're all hoping that that bell curve will be flattened out and we can get on with life, but we're seeing people canceling things into June. But what can the DBIA do, or what are you doing to sort of support your businesses? And it's not just retail, restaurants, you've got a lot of professional offices as well.
So, right now it's like the time of the flood. It's very interesting. You have to look back on historically how we fared as a city, and we really came together. There was a lot of great surprises as well, and we survived. We came back stronger than ever. But I think it begins with the leaders having a calming presence and staying positive, and that calming nature and looking at information, dissecting it. As we've got a great team. That's one thing that's really lucky now. The team Peterborough. We've got some wonderful organizations that we work with very closely daily, and so this is just another opportunity for us to shine with our members, get that information, dissect it, and get it out to our members. But also, there's a great deal of lobbying as well. We're the professional organizations that are looked to for information on how that money is going to be spent at the other levels of government. Also, ideas and creative ideas to pass on as well to many organizations and entities that we are going to need to look at. So whether it's to do with rent or funding or even municipal parking issues or permits or red tape that's going to be needed cutting. We're trying to look at things short-term, mid-term, and long-term in solutions. Because I really believe when this comes out, my job is to make sure my business community is ready, and we're ready to market the downtown. We're ready to bring people back stronger than ever, and so our role is to prepare the ground for that, and make sure that we're getting as much as we can from the other levels of government that's needed in order to. Right now, we're in triage.
Yeah.
And we're a very calm, but we're in triage. And we need to make sure that our small businesses, because let's be clear, the main entities that are being affected by this is small business, and they're the backbone of our community. So we just need to make sure that we're sending the message that we're there for our small businesses.
Hey, Terry, and so businesses within the downtown core are levied, and they are automatically members of your organization. With Stu, you have a membership base. Many of them are members that choose to be part of that. A lot of them are downtown businesses, but as a broader entity, what kind of things are you doing or hearing from your members right now? Like, what do they Are they more in a listening mode and waiting for your sort of guidance to help them as one of the avenues of information? I mean, we're all getting information from the Prime Minister, the Premier, our Mayor, and probably the Warden too somewhere. But what do you see as your role when it comes to communicating with your membership?
So a little bit to unpack there. First of
Yeah,
all,
a lot.
I think
Sorry about that, yeah.
no, that's all right, because I do want to refer back to the flood, because I think it's an important lesson. So first of all, it has shifted from last week, where people were wondering whether or not they should be open. Rhonda and I were running a business summit, and I've said if that was the next day, we would have canceled it, because that's how quickly things were changing, and frankly, it's just essentially gotten worse every day. We're now in a state of emergency, and so business has shifted from what they should do as far as their businesses and their employees are concerned to what support is available, what are the rules and regulations around employment law. I have to give full credit to a couple of our political leaders. The federal government, for example, today went a long way to easing some of those fears of people who have essentially woken up without a job, or a business that has been forced to close, and they're concerned about their own livelihood, but in particular the livelihood of their employees. And I think that we all have to really appreciate the situation that they are in. This is not that vision of this rich business person. These are local families who employ people, and they are waking up and locking their doors, in some cases because they're forced to, and in many cases because it's the right thing to do. So kudos to the federal government, and kudos to Doug Ford yesterday, who specifically mentioned the number of businesses and the types of businesses that were being shut down, but also the businesses that were staying open. And I think it's really important for people to realize that there is an economy out there. There's a lot of people that are still employed, and they should be. And I think that there's a tendency for all of us to be sort of cocooning, and yet we realize that we still have to go out there and buy groceries. There was an anecdote that I heard today, an interview with a milk producer who has 16 employees, and he is one sector shut down from having his entire operation shut down. But in the meantime, he's creating 16 jobs, and those people are showing up for work every morning. And the flood, I think, is an extremely good example of how people got together in a crisis situation. You said businesses didn't survive. A lot of businesses did, and it's because they found a way. Their landlords pushed the rent down the road or just eliminated the rent. There's a lot of that going on today with half the federal government announcements today were deferring expenses down the road. So I'm just, all of that is about giving kudos to the business community.
Yeah, well, thanks, Stu. And yeah, and it's that risk, and I get, and having those supports in place, and that's, you bring back some memories of, I'll never forget the King and George, Eric Cherney's building totally flooded, an artist lost all his work, and Cherney's are one of the landlords that did that.
Stepped up.
For sure. Yeah. Rhonda, one of the things that's happening in Eastern Ontario that I'm aware of with economic development offices, you're an economic development corporation that works for the city and the county. But some of the municipal economic development offices, Cornwall, for example, and I think even Kingston, have actually shut their operations down and diverted their staff to work on responses with the city. Is that different? Do you expect that would happen with your organization, or because you're not directly working out of City Hall, are you in a different position? Are you able to carry on with the work you're assigned to do, and is that what the stakeholders would like you to do?
That is a great question. Because we are independent and we are arm's length, we have taken we've made the decision to have our staff work off-site. So although we're not accepting visitors in the building, we are still being responsive, and we're having a number of responses and calls in from our local businesses. We are staying connected with the city and county teams. We are letting them know from Team PTBO meetings what is top of mind of businesses right now. We did launch a survey to ask the business community, what are the triage moments right now, what is actually keeping you up? And I think it's positive, to build on Stu's comments, it's positive that the upper levels of government are responding to those concerns. So the questions and the concerns that the business community was talking about just yesterday, a lot of those concerns were answered with that federal announcement today. Obviously, tomorrow there will be more questions, and we'll continue to stay in touch. But what we see as our role is to really hear that voice and then share that with both roles at the city and the county. And I think that's been working well. I've had feedback from some members of council to say that the feedback is helpful. They haven't been in a position to make any decisions as of yet, but I think the lines of communication are always open, and I think that's the thing that is most important. If the city does ask us or the county does ask us to take on a different role, absolutely we would be in a position to do that.
All right, and Terry, as we're live on March 18th, tomorrow at 11 o'clock at night, it's spring. Spring is actually coming, despite all this. The world keeps going. Springtime brings people out, it brings people downtown. When the city of Peterborough comes back to life after our long hibernation, typically, it's all about gatherings. It's about your street parties, the Peterborough Pulse, new markets are coming out. Then that's got to be a real concern for those businesses, and I know you're involved with a lot of those events. So the Rib Fest, I mean, these are things that we're being told to keep social distancing, and as Stu said, businesses are open. We need to use them and go out and take advantage. And I think that's another thing we can talk about. But tell me your thoughts on how do you do social distancing and do all the things we want to see done in the city of Peterborough this summer downtown, or this spring?
So, two things. First of all, I'm an optimist, and I believe that if you're looking at maybe a 90-day countdown, if you're going like the second week of June countdown, start counting down in your head or put it up in your business and start looking forward to that. Start planning ahead. Start figuring out your marketing now, your strategies for getting your customers back in the door, but also use this time for your own mental health. Connect with your family. Spend some time. Enjoy. Change your window display. Tidy up the place. Do some bookworking. I would also say, this is a time maybe to get online and learn about social media if you haven't been on social media. Get a presence so you're connecting with a new source. We got a lot of people that aren't on social media. We're very proactive. Last year we did Digital Main Street. We taught over 60 businesses in the downtown how to be on social media for sales, and glad we did that. It works out good for them right now. So use this time now. A lot of our businesses were working overtime, doing a lot of hours, not taking any time off.
Right.
This is almost I would hate to say blessing in disguise, but I'm trying to look at the good parts of this. Let's connect, get our businesses ready, because I know that when the all clear, I call it, happens, people are going to be desperate to come out, and the downtown's going to be there waiting for it. We're very resilient. It's a downtown that always goes through. Downtowns always go through everything first, and sometimes alone when things happen. They seem to be the center and the heartbeat of it. We're going to be ready. The event season is going to happen. We'll taste the downtown at the beginning of June. We don't know. We're not going to pull the trigger yet. No. I'm still being very positive, going ahead like it's happening. We've got more events happening. You got Pulse, you got Hootenanny and Hunter, you got Veg Fest, you got Rib Fest, you got so many events coming. People are going to want to get out, and I really think that the community is going to rally behind our business community. That's the type of community we have. They are going to go in the stores. We're already pre-planning, working on packaging and marketing, and special events to draw people downtown, and plus incentives to do that as well. And we're working on a gift certificate program. The thing that happens right now, though, you come up with all these ideas, you give all the advice you can, and then within a matter of minutes or hours, the situation changes. So we need all sort of leaders, and they've been doing that. This was a great example from the federal government this morning. We need our leaders to make those decisions. They don't have to make the right decisions all the time. Sometimes there's too much delay in making decisions, waiting for the perfect press release. But their job is to make decisions, because it's the indecision that causes panic and causes concern. The message I would like to send the community, good people are working on this tirelessly. They care. I care about these businesses. I know a lot of them by name, their children's, even their pets' names.
Right.
And I'm not alone. Stu and Rhonda both know. And great people. Shout out to Gail Morehouse, who's not here today,
Right.
from Community Futures. Organizations like that are primed and set. When that money comes down, they're distributing that. Gail has already met the call with some supports. More is going to be coming. And I think the community, just like the flood, we're going to be surprised about who actually comes, rises to the top. It's a great community for
Well,
that.
you mentioned the Community Futures. I think they were one of the first tweets I saw where they're clients, and they're a federally funded organization that provides loans and grants, and they were right there with that support right away. Stu, I want to talk to you just a bit more and kind of hammer this whole idea home, because when you were talking earlier, I was thinking, we are kind of getting mixed messages. We definitely have to be overly cautious about spreading. Even if we don't have cases, some people could be carriers. But it is about the fact that businesses are open. And is there a way, or is the chamber going to articulate to its members to help, like I think a brand office supply? I read an article about Mo Cox today, and they did get into the fact they were still, he's getting a junior achievement, lifetime achievement award. They did get into the fact that they've taken precautions for social distancing, everything's clean, and this is a long-standing office supply business downtown. Are there other businesses the chamber will help to sort of recommend how to get the word out they're still open so people will shop? I mean, I need a new pair of boots, and they're probably going on sale, and I want to drop into one of the stores downtown, but you're told, oh, don't go out if you don't have to. Well, I don't need to buy boots right now, but part of me wants to go do that, and I look at them online, but I want to go down and buy them. Tell us how people can do that.
Well,
or should they?
Well, it's a really tricky question, because in many cases it's up to the individuals. Like I'm thinking of Lansdowne Place. There are stores open and there are stores closed, and I'm sure if you went to the Lansdowne Place website, you'd be able to figure out which was which. There are broad sectors of the economy that are obviously still open and operating, and of course they know what's going on. They know all of the protocols. They're practicing all of the safety measures that have been recommended by the public health agencies. And as an organization, we've certainly tried to disseminate all of that information as it has become available. Declare a state of emergency. What does that mean? Here's a link. Here are the fundamentals that you need to know. The federal funding package today. What are the details? How do I apply for EI? What's the business supplement, et cetera, et cetera. So we just try to keep our members and, frankly, the entire community as informed as we possibly can. Our policy analyst, Sandra Duick, familiar to this organization, is just unbelievable at putting the information together. She's built a web page on our website, peterborough-chamber.ca, that I would suggest has pretty much every piece of information that you would need if you were a business person. And so, that's kind of our role. We're also reacting. We've got our own events. We've got an annual seniors trade show. More than 1,000 seniors come out to it on June the 17th. Not likely going to happen, but it'll probably happen in September. Yeah. So I think every business, every organization, everyone who's running events are making those kinds of decisions on a daily basis.
So I want to just change gears, but I believe you've been involved with the telethon more years than you've been alive, I think, if
40.
That's possible.
Yes, so 40 this
started
year.
Really young.
Yeah, thank you.
Give us, right in this studio quite often, but tell us what's happening with the Easter Seals telethon, because that was one of the first things that was delayed, I believe.
Yeah, it was supposed to be next Sunday, I think, but it'll be September the 13th. So again, people are able to pivot. Coralie Jacobs is an incredible resource for the Easter Seals organization. She has all of the sponsorships in place. None of that is going to go away. We're just going to change the date. So, same people, same sponsors, same business community stepping up again, all of the community contributing, and that's going to be another $500,000 that'll come into the Easter Seals organization in September instead of in March.
But they know it'll be coming, and it's going back to what Terry said, it's a great time to maybe get some of that back office planning done, that report you couldn't get to, some organizational stuff. But we are going to have a very busy September, Rhonda. That's usually when you got these events being shifted. I've seen a few others, economic development things start ramping up there. how is it impacting you guys for planning and professional development? I mean, it is early days, and I, like Terry, I'm an optimist, but you know, we've got people are talking. It's going to be a long haul. So,
Yep, I think at PKED, we certainly are looking at how can we make adjustments. Just like every business has to make adjustments, we need to do the same thing. We operate the Small Business Enterprise Center that's helping new businesses get started. We've actually had inquiries from individuals right now during this crisis that actually have the ability to launch a new business to help in this situation. So that's good news. But I think what we would also look at is how are we giving these workshops and these classes digitally, and how are we doing them via webinar, that type of thing. And we assume that most people are going to be changing how they're consuming information, and we're trying to be responsive to that. But I'm absolutely terrified at how busy September is going to be on the calendar. Normally September is busy as it is,
Right.
but I think this is going to be a really good time to celebrate, and we're hoping that we're in a position to do that.
you know, you mentioned companies that form to like take advantage or help out. But I do recall with the flood, there's some restoration companies that came to town and they're still here 16 years later. And the ones that were here are still here and doing well. So it's strange as it is, it actually can be an opportunity for things like that to happen.
And we do have local businesses that are making adjustments to their own staff as well. So wait staff are now becoming delivery, you know, because they're adjusting their business model. And I think that's really a testament to the business people. They're doing their best. They are trying to keep their employees employed. They are trying to keep their business going. And I think kudos to them for trying to make it work under really, really difficult circumstances.
You know, Terry, we've got great restaurants and dining places throughout the county, but downtown there's a real focus. You mentioned the number earlier. One group of people I think we're all concerned about are servers who, you know, make a base salary. Mostly it's tips. Getting this EI program might be a challenge, but we've got just about 2 minutes left. But how do you see people could help out their local servers, who in some cases become friends, are very familiar if you're a regular at certain restaurants?
So, you know, and when I talk to my business owners, the main concern they have is their staff. And they want their staff that they've trained, that their customers have built a relationship with. They want them to be there when the all clear happens. But what you can do is support your favorite restaurants or business. You know, even a call or an email or a social media post, positive, hey, looking forward to when you open again. Get a gift card from them. Now, obviously, that has other issues as well down the road in September or October or whatever, when everybody cashes in. But right now, it's creating some cash flow for the businesses, but it's also showing support to them. So that's important. Stop attacking each other online. I'm not saying, we need to support each other. So the social shaming, stop all that. There's nothing more frightening than a business that has a $4,000 a month mortgage on their business. They've got, you know, 10 staff that they got to pay, and they've got product that is aging, and they've got a mortgage at home. I just have to worry about a mortgage, you know, and so it's a very frightening time. And anything that the government can do to look at the main part of this, and that's the employees.
Yeah.
So look to that date when it's coming, and just, I would say, shower our business community with love when it happens. And a good thing is, a lot of these restaurants who haven't done takeout before are now creating takeout menus. And so there's a unique survival thing that's happening that will probably be long-term as well.
Excellent. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's definitely an option, and you know, people have stocked up. But if you want to change from the cans of beans or whatever, you've got lots of options here in Peterborough. Well, folks, we're out of time. I want to thank each and every one of you for the work you're doing and coming together. This is why Peterborough survives things like this very well, and seeing you work very collectively, you know, with the things you're doing in your business and your private lives, I think is very important. Tomorrow night, I want to invite our audience to join us right here, 7 to 9 p.m. live from our studio. We'll have a COVID-19 local sports impact. And your hosts will be Dan Malta and Scott Arnold, who are usually busy with Pete's games, but they've got some time, so they're going to talk about the impact of local sports. Dan Malta got all those back shots in my head tonight. Dan, thank you for coming in and helping it on the camera tonight. The panelists will discuss how it will impact the sports. We didn't talk about that tonight, but that's another big part of our community that's having some challenges right now. But I want to thank you for joining us here on Politically Speaking. We're off next week. We're hoping to be back April 1st. Jim Hendry, panelist, was on a driving tour down around Memphis, Tennessee. I don't know if he's back or coming back. We hope to have him here on April 1st, and we'll see you down the road.